Scrolling through ArtStation, I was captivated by two incredible monsters crafted by Stanislav Lunin. Their design was so striking, I knew I had to bring them to life in 3D. After securing Stanislav's permission, I embarked on the challenging yet thrilling process of translating his brilliant 2D concepts into detailed 3D models. That's when the real work and the true adventure began. Ready to see how I tackled creating these creatures? To kick things off, I pulled both concept images into my image editor. This little trick lets me keep a constant eye on them while I model, which is super handy if you're rocking a single monitor setup like me. Next, I jumped straight into modeling the base for sculpting. This approach is a lifesaver, especially for beginners. Why? Because it gives you fantastic control over the character's proportions right from the get-go. I'm using the good old classic box modeling technique here. At this stage, I'm not sweating the topology flow too much. My main focus is just nailing that core shape. After all, this base model is just a launchpad for the detailed sculpting to come. Ready to dive into the sculpting process? Once the base mesh was done, I added a subdivision modifier and turned its levels up to 2. To make those changes permanent, I applied all modifiers by hitting Ctrl+A and selecting Visual Geometry to Mesh. With that done, it was time to sculpt. I started by using the subdivision's added detail to block out the character's general form. My journey into the sculpt began with a dive straight into the creature's teeth. Now, this was a moment of decision. Both creatures had distinct dental structures. Should I go for an open teeth look, exposed and menacing, or keep them close below the skin, hinting at something more subtle? I opted for the former, shaping them with a lizard-like, almost dinosaurian feel. This choice, I felt, would truly amplify that reptilian essence I was aiming for. With the teeth setting the tone, I then began to sculpt the rest of the body, bringing its general form to life. Now, immerse yourself in the creative flow as I laid down the initial shapes. With the teeth setting the stage, my next step was to truly lean into the creature's eerie aesthetic. I pulled in skeleton reference images, drawn to the exposed skeletal structure that gave this beast its wonderfully creepy vibe. This was my guide, as I began to roughly sculpt the bones directly onto the character's body. No extra geometry yet, just the raw, foundational shapes taking form. Now, let's dive into the process of bringing that general form to life. I'll explain any new techniques as they come up. Once you turn on Dintopo, this method of sculpting becomes incredibly efficient. Notice how the geometry density adjusts. The closer you get to your character, the denser the mesh will become, allowing for intricate details. Move farther away, and less geometry is produced, which is fantastic for keeping things smooth, especially if you have a lower-end PC. Keep this in mind. Don't add micro details now. We will just sculpt the overall shape and form of the character. Micro details we will add later after retopology. You will see why then. As I sculpted, I made sure to dedicate a separate window just for checking the silhouette. Trust me, this is a game changer. Here's the quick setup. Split your view, pop over to the Viewport Shading tab, top right, set the lighting to flat, then under Color, choose Single, and switch it to pure black. And just like that, you've got a fantastic silhouette screen ready to go. Now, the ribcage on this character is pretty prominent. Instead of trying to carve out hollow spaces directly in the sculpt, I simply defined the depressions of each rib. We'll create those open areas properly in the retopology phase, which makes much more sense. From there, it's all about finessing the overall form and making it shine. And here it is, the fully sculpted character body. This was all thanks to the Dintopo method, which really shines for getting those initial forms just right. After sculpting, the next crucial step was retopology. You'll notice I used triangles in places during this process. Just a key tip. Try to avoid triangles in areas where the body will deform a lot. And if you're aiming for film production characters, it's generally best to skip triangles altogether for cleaner animation. Alright, with our clean topology ready, it's finally time to bring this character to life, by adding those intricate micro-skin details. Alright guys, the fun part is here. It's time to add those intricate micro-skin details. First, we need to add a multi-resolution modifier, which is an incredibly powerful tool in Blender. I'm going to set my level to 4 for now. If your PC is more powerful, you can definitely go higher to get even more detail. I always start with the head. I'm using the draw brush and one of Blender's built-in textures, specifically the noise texture, to begin applying those skin imperfections. Okay, let's take this to the next level. We're going to add a Voronoi texture on top of the noise we just put down. A pro tip for this is to go into the texture menu and change the mapping to tiled. This is a great way to ensure the texture flows continuously over the entire surface. Now, as you apply the texture, switch your brush to minus modes. This will push the texture in, creating a more dramatic, sculpted effect that's perfect for giving the character a reptilian or lizard-like appearance. I'm just playing around with this look because it's a personal project. You could also use a custom texture, but remember, if you don't try new things, you'll never discover what's possible. So never stop experimenting. Alright, let's move on to the legs. We're going to use the mask brush to paint a texture pattern. You probably already have an idea of the dinosaurian, chicken, or bird-like texture we're going for. The goal here is just to draw your pattern with the mask brush. Don't worry about popping it up just yet, because I'll show you a trick to get all of this to pop up in just one click. Alright, let's bring that pattern to life. First, with your pattern drawn, press Ctrl+I to invert the mask. This is exactly what we want. Now for the magic. Go to your mesh filter, make sure the mode is set to inflate, and drag your brush slightly to the right. A pop-up menu will appear, and you'll want to change the strength value to 0.001. This gives the pattern the perfect, subtle thickness. With the mask still in place, you can now add finer micro details around the edges of your new pattern. This final step brings everything together and makes the legs look incredible. Alright guys, let's add those final details that make a character truly epic. It's time for the veins. For this I use the Draw Sharp brush. In the Fall Off menu, I set the mode to Smooth and change the brush to Plus. Now start carefully drawing your veins. Don't just place them randomly. The key is to put them in logical, natural-looking places. A little here, a little there, and soon you'll have a much more believable and detailed character. Here's a quick trick to create a simple, classic chainmail armor look. First, I went into Edit mode and used Subdivide to make the mesh denser. Then, back in Object mode, I added a wireframe modifier. By simply adjusting the thickness, you can instantly get that iconic chainmail armor feel you'd find in the old times. You can play with the modifier settings to get the exact look you want for your prop. That's a wrap. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.